Hello there, so today I would like to give a very brief introduction to this Python-based automatic IB Econ IA article searcher and how we could operate it with ease. So first of all, we need to understand a few concepts. The concept is sentiment analysis. So it basically separates any chunk of words into two quantifiable parameters, which one of it is sentiment, asking whether the chunk of words is negative or positive. The other parameter is subjectivity, asking about whether the chunk of words states a fact or an opinion. So in Python, we try to quantify it on a scale of -1 to 1 or any other scale. We try to quantify it, for example, negative sentiment would have a value of -1, and vice versa, a positive one will have a value of 1. And in our IB Econ searcher, we apply this concept to an Econ IA article, basically, by giving it analysis on sentiment and subjectivity. If you take a look at this example at the bottom of the screen, which is basically the simple sentence, "This is an excellent movie to watch. I really love it." So we could separate the keywords, basically highlighted ones. If we look at the yellow ones, these are the keywords that convey a positive sentiment. Okay, and the green one is basically the keyword that conveys the subjectivity. If we look at this table here, we could see that sentiment has a range of -1 to 1. -1 is negative and 1 is entirely positive. So in this example, it has a value of 0.75, which means that it's actually quite positive, which is correct because we see the keywords of excellent and the keywords of love. On subjectivity, it has a range of 0 to 1, ranging from objective to subjective. So in this example, it has a value of 0.8, which means that it's actually very subjective, which is also quite obvious here with the keyword of I. And applying this concept to the Econ IA article, these are values which are only preset, which means that we could change it afterwards on our own. We have a value of -0.2 to 0.2, which means that we don't want the article to be particularly negative or positive. And on subjectivity, we have a value of 0.35 to 0.65, which means that we want the article to be relatively, basically relatively objective, we could say. We want the article to be relatively subjective. We want some of the author's opinions that we could analyze in our IA, basically. But we do not want it to be entirely subjective. Especially, we do not want a lot of I's and we's, okay? We want it to be rather subjective, but not entirely subjective. So that's why we set a value of 0.35 to 65. And on word count, we have a value of 600 words to 1,000 words. These are also based on previous IA assignments, which we analyze the article and find its characteristics. So if we understand this concept, we can move on. This is a flowchart of our IA searcher. So first of all, we enter a keyword just like we do on Google search, and the Python script will automatically search on Google News, and we determine whether it is within the word count range, okay, which is 600 to 1,000 words. If it is a yes, it will move on and determine whether it is within the sentiment range, which is as previously mentioned. And if also it's a yes, we add it to a list, which will eventually be downloaded as a spreadsheet. And if any of the criteria fails, we search for any other article on the Google search, basically. And that's how it works. So one thing to note is that setting harsher range criteria would severely impact search performance, which is quite obvious if we want the word count to be very narrow, the range is very narrow. The articles on Google search would, or we should say that less article would satisfy the criterion, which would make it take longer to search for the relevant articles that we want. So basically, based on this concept, we could do a demo of how it works. So if we click on the link in the description, we could find this Python script, which is run on Google Colab. And first of all, we just need to install some Python packages by clicking on this button, this play button here. Once we click on it, it will run it would install some of the packages. And you can see it's because I've already downloaded beforehand, so you can see its requirement already satisfied. If it's the first time you've run, it would take a longer time, but you could know that it has finished processing when this play button does not turn anymore. It will have a turning symbol here if it's running, and it will have a little green tick if it has completed. So after we have done this, we move on to the second block. Okay, you can see here, and it's basically a block for you to adjust the parameters. As we've mentioned, if we do not make any modifications, it will follow this as shown here, as shown in the table. But if, say, you want to make the word count a little bit more lenient, for example, 1200 words, you could do the modification directly here. And one more thing, if we want to make sure, or after you have made any modifications, or even you haven't made any modifications, you must click on the play button or the run cell button right here, and you can see it takes a very short time to run, and it will show you the parameters that are finalized, okay? And with these parameters, we'll move on to the third block, which is executing the search. Same, we'll click on this button, the run cell button, and it will ask you to input your search, okay? It will take some time, okay? Type your search here. You could take it just as your regular Google search. For example, you type alcohol indirect tax, okay, and then press enter. And it will ask you the number of output articles, for example, 3, okay? And it will begin the search. And as you can see, as it needs to process each article and determine whether it fulfills a criteria one by one, it takes more than, for example, 5 to 10 seconds to process any one article. So if we set the number of articles too high, it will actually take a long time, which is undesirable. So for example, we just want to set a maximum of 15 articles. And in our case, we have downloaded the econ search results as an Excel file, and then we open the file to see what we have got. Okay, so once we've opened the article, the Excel file, we could see the 3 results that we've obtained. So automatically you can see the title here, the word count here, keywords in the article, the summary of the article, okay, summary of the article, as you can see here, and also the URL for the article. So you could determine whether it's a suitable article or not for Econ IA based on the summary. And similarly, you could repeat this process with any other keywords. And if you have any issue or you run into any error, there's one simple method to resolve the error, which is to click on this arrow here, as you can see. Okay, press here, and then you press basically manage sections, and essentially want to terminate the session because it has run into some issues which typically involve some searching errors, which is not determined by our code, but actually by Google. So we terminate this section, okay. Okay, you see no active sessions right now. We close the block, and then we reconnect to another runtime, basically. We press on reconnect, and it will allocate another runtime for us. And after it has connected and initialized, basically, we repeat the process by clicking on installing packages, running the second block, and executing the search. So basically, that's how the Econ IA searcher works, and I hope it really helps you on the Econ IA. Thank you.